In a somehow strange turn of events, I feel like I was right about the Anduin Ren wager from yesterday.
I would say right for the wrong reasons, yeah.
I think I was definitely right for the wrong reasons. However, no guild 24 hours after recording that video yesterday has seen Anduin Ren.
Yes, and nobody's even particularly close to killing Halondrus. As of this point, Echo are the farthest on Halondrus at 50%.
Yeah.
As their best pull. Liquid, as of the time of recording this, are making progress, though. They're at 55% on Halondrus, so they could very easily overtake any time now. They reached Halondrus first, of course.
Yeah, and so basically what happened last night, like right after we got finished recording, Liquid ended up killing Lihuvim. They went off stream and pulled for a few attempts, disabled competitor mode. They were just trying to get some feel for the fight. Why
at the end of their stream, again, totally reasonable thing to do. Both guilds would do that. Any guild that was in the lead would do that because it's just free real estate. You do that, then you go to bed. Or you go to bed early, but you're not going to show that and then go to bed and have the other team be able to look at it while you're asleep.
Liquid's Lihuvim strategy, at some point, like right around the time that we recorded our video, a little bit after that, they thought that they were going to get their strategy for how they were dealing with the fight changed. So it involved killing 2 of the ads during the intermission. There was something with like Blizzard didn't want them to kill 2 ads, and then...
Right, yeah. So there was some miscommunication with the developers where Liquid thought that the developers said that it was unintended for it to behave that way and that it was going to get fixed.
Yeah.
That didn't end up happening. The only thing that the devs ended up doing to that fight was nerfing it.
Yeah.
They made it so that the ads don't cast from halfway across the room. A little bit easier to get them together. A little bit easier to group them up, get the mass grip, nuke them down. Echo then ended up killing the boss. Slightly different game plan for it. Rather than sort of YOLOing the stars at the edge of the room, they would just put them in actually a nice little star shape right behind the boss. They'd put 2 of them and then clear them all with the bomb. Really elegant when it worked. A lot of early wipes called when somebody hit one of them and exploded the yellow gunk under them.
Similar strategies from the 2, though. Keeping that rock elemental knockup ad, perma CC, never dealing
mass
with
roots, that. 70 moonkins,
100 traps,
1 million mass roots.
Yeah.
Then we have, so to round out our top 5, in third place we have SK Pieces right now.
Yeah.
SK Pieces recently killed Lihuvim as well. They also made it to Halondrus, and they are 6 bowls into progression as of the time of recording this.
Yeah.
Very early into progression there, but it is always a good sign for any guild to be at the same boss as Echo and Liquid. If you're doing that, you're doing something right, because nobody else, as of this time, are on Halondrus. Method and BDGG round out our top 5 at 5 of 11 Mythic. They are both working on Lihuvim. Method have had a 0% wipe as of the time of recording this on Lihuvim, and I believe they are bedtime now, so that's going to be one of the ones that it's going to be a hard night's sleep for them.
I am concerned about BDGG because they are NA. They have that NA 16-hour head start.
Right.
And then on top of that, like I talked to them a little bit, they seemed like they had just a bad time and were really slow on their splits is why they are so far behind.
Yeah, splits have been hard for them. It's been hard for them to find traders. They haven't had the Echo or Liquid phenomenon of basically having more traders than they need. I'm not really sure what it was, because they're offering competitive amounts of gold, but maybe just reach, number of followers.
I think it has to just be like reach and
I think so. And again, it just goes to show some of the barriers to getting into the race. But yeah, so then...
Anything else about Lihuvim, really?
Yeah, Liquid took it down. Echo had a slightly different strategy. And then Echo, while Liquid were asleep, got to start on Halondrus. And they actually made some banging progression on there. Made it into the second phase. I think they were the first guild to do that, although maybe Liquid did that off stream. Certainly Echo were the first guild to defeat the first Reclaim cast in the second phase. Let me tell you, that fight is crazy.
Okay, so first off, so if you read the boss from the Dungeon Journal, you're like, okay, it has these bombs that we play hot potato.
Yeah.
Most of the way you read it, it's like, oh, there's 1 bomb. And then you pull the boss and you're like, oh, there's 3 bombs. And then you go into phase 2 and you're like, oh,
another 3 spawn.
Fucking God, there's 3 more bombs. And then we don't know anything about phase 3. Nobody at the time of recording, at least, nobody has gotten the boss into phase 3. So we don't know if is there going to be 9 bombs? Is there still going to be that really like heroic phenomenon where the swirly is like encompassing and running parallel to the whole room, where you have to like stay on one side? You have to break up your raid into 2 groups of 10.
Yeah, because those drills, the things that divide the room in half at the end of Heroic on the last phase, they aren't actually one-shots on Heroic.
Yeah.
On Mythic it is. If you touch that, you're dead on Mythic. So if that divides the room, there's nothing except for blinks to get you through that, or immunities to get you onto the other side if you need to be, which Yeah, I mean, there's a couple different hypotheses, right? One hypothesis is this boss is hard enough already. Last phase is going to be basically no additional stuff. Another is maybe they'll make it harder by adding more bombs again. Maybe another 3 bombs will spawn. You'll have 9 total.
Maybe the lasers.
Which means very little room for error, right? Very little extra time is available on each of those bombs before you explode. Because if 2 people are juggling a bomb set, there's very little room for error. And with 9 bombs out, you'd have to have 2 on each of them. The other way it could be harder is they could add more, instead of cutting the room in half, they cut it in quarters. Spinny quarter beams. I don't think that will happen, but if they do, maybe we've got a nice 600 pull boss, because already both Echo and Liquid are over 100 pulls on Halondrus, which it's a real wall boss.
Yeah, exactly.
Neither of them's got it below 50%, and they're above 100 pulls.
It is a real wall boss. At the same time, progression doesn't happen gradually. Progression happens in spurts.
Mm-hmm.
That fight is one that, like, if you make up any mistakes, you basically just blow up instantly. The whole entire raid blows up even. It's not even just like an individual barrier. We've seen a lot of wipes and deaths into phase 1. Do you think that the boss should get nerfed or deserves a nerf?
I believe it should get nerfed. I believe it deserves a nerf. Not this week, though. Probably not next week. Maybe the following week, because the thing is, double legendaries are going to make a lot of fights more accessible, a lot of fights more killable. They don't really nerf Halondrus that much. You're going to have to do all the mechanics basically just as much. I mean, you know, 5% more damage, you can do 5% less mechanics because you kill the boss a little bit sooner, but it makes none of the mechanics mechanically easier on that fight.
That fight is mechanically
you got to
very
reclaim for a little bit less time, but that's not what kills you. There are a lot of things in that fight that kill you, and my suspicion is that Blizzard will target one or multiple of them with nerfs at some point in the next few weeks, but hopefully they don't do that for the Race to World first, unless these guilds are stuck on it again for another couple days. If it starts to feel really unfair, if we start getting to, like, you know, 250 pulls or whatever, and the boss is still not in the last phase, then okay, I could maybe be down for some mid-prog nerfs then, but definitely I'm not happy with just the idea of, like, the first time they encounter resistance, let's call for nerfs.
I agree.
Yeah.
I also agree with you. I don't think it should be nerfed. Just watching how Echo, we just got done with our Echo cast, watching how Echo progged that boss, I'm not even that upset. Like,
almost all of their wipes, you could point to, like, well, here was the mistake.
Play better.
And they were really hard.
Yeah.
Like, really hard to do, and there were a million things they did right, and the 1,001st thing they did wrong. But it's not like some of those bosses where you look at it and you're like, what were they supposed to do differently here?
So, I have a question then. Do you like fights like this? So it's been a while since we've seen like an instant raid wipe style mechanic, and I feel like a lot of these fights are people always complain and they always call for nerfs very rapidly whenever fights like this exist. I think the last ones we realistically saw was Xanesh and Il'gynoth during Nyalotha.
Il'gynoth with the no dispel strategy where just your whole raid would explode all at once.
So those two bosses had like a lot of like one person dies, full raid gets one shot. Kind of similar level of coordination and strategy required on this fight. Do you really like those style of encounters? Because me personally, I think that if they're used sparingly, I'm kind of okay with them, but I know a lot of people hate them.
Yeah, I don't mind a fight like this. I'm kind of worried Anduin's going to be like this as well with the hopelessness and blasphemy mechanic. But I don't know. Yeah, Halondrus has looked fun to me. Mm-hmm. I haven't pulled it yet. I don't know if it plays fun. It definitely looks frustrating if you wipe to, 10 pulls in a row where you're doing fine and somebody across the raid does a bomb wrong that you had nothing to interact with. You explode. That's going to feel pretty bad. But overall, it does look like a really fun fight. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so the last thing. Halondrus, I'm surprised with the lack of melee we've been seeing. Oh, okay, rather not the lack of melee, but the fact that both Echo and Liquid started with a lot and then started to cut down over the general course of progression. So whenever you do this fight on Heroic, Halondrus looks like it's like melee heaven because phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and even the intermissions, like the amount of ranged uptime you have because you have to move and like play goalie. You want your range to be like on the front lines for like playing goalie and like the melee DPS to be like the last line of defense kind of thing. But melee have insane amounts of uptime on the boss, especially during the intermissions, and so their DPS is a lot higher. But it seemed like on Mythic, you just like weren't really able to bring that many melee.
Remember this moment for next tier when we're like making tier lists before the tier, and I'm like, okay, here's why. Always it turns out on Mythic that you just have to cut melee. You always have to go down to 6. You always have to go down to 5. Basically every mechanic, it turns out range can do it better than melee. And this is one fight where it's just no exception. You have these mobs or these mechanics that ranged have a much easier time of handling it. Doing the bombs out at range and doing the gatekeeping out at range, there's much more room for error with that. as compared to doing them in melee. So yeah, we saw Echo starting with I think 10 melee, and they are now down to 6.
6 or 7?
6 or yeah, something like that.
Liquid is okay. I think they're at 6 and Liquid's at 7.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if that number even goes down by another 1 or 2.
Echo has 2 melee healers. Liquid has 1 melee healer.
Right. Which, I mean, yeah, it's just fundamentally true that anytime there's serious pressure on the group, unless the mechanics are ones that specifically do not target melee, it's almost always easier for range to do the mechanics, and so you start seeing this pressure to just like, all right, well, let's get some more range in here.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like in addition to that, I was like really surprised with how much Halondrus on Heroic was melee focused. The fact that
Again, Heroic, it's always fine. It always looks good for melee.
Their highest DPS too is the biggest.
Yeah,
thing.
and they still do more damage on Mythic as well. But the thing is, the damage isn't the problem, right? You need to be able to do the mechanics first, right? The mechanics have to work. If you start seeing them wipe at 2%, they'll maybe find a way to try and get another high DPS spec back in somehow. But that's not where they're wiping
if
to
they're
right
wiping
now.
to enrage or something like
once we start seeing enrage wipes, that's where you start to be like, okay, what can we do to get more damage? Even then, I think that they will probably try a bunch of stuff before they try changing the comp.
Yeah.
Under those circumstances, because anytime you wipe to 2%, there's almost always a way you could play differently to make it work. But yeah, sometimes you do have to just change the comp. I do suspect, though, that, yeah, it's going to stay melee unfriendly from here on out for the rest of the tier.
It's currently day 4. Honestly, Halondrus has been a pretty big wall. I'm still super high on this raid. It was kind of weird that we had to do splits fucking day 1.
But no splits for the rest of the week, probably, unless there's some gearing splits. Even those will be quick, right? It'll be like, let's go target a Bell for
You'd rather
a DPS
do Mythic
or
Plus.
something. Yeah, even Mythic Plus farming is probably better than Heroic splits for most cases. And we've seen guilds taking a couple hours here or there to do some M+, do some PvP. But there's not too much left to get from the raid, so love that. No midweek splits to ruin the excitement.
What do you think we're gonna see tomorrow? Halondrus die?
I think Halondrus will die tomorrow, but I think it will take a lot of tomorrow to do it.
That's fair. I think that's pretty reasonable to take. Do you think Liquid kills Halondrus before?
So Liquid's going to have 8 hours after we post this or after we finish recording this to pull without Echo. Certainly they will pull into the lead.
It'll be close. I think they'll be close.
I don't know if it'll be killable. It just depends on what that last phase looks like for them.
Yeah.
If the last phase is actually not as bad as, like, if it just represents the same difficulty as the earlier phases, they could probably kill it. If it ramps up further, then maybe we're looking at a 200, 250, 300 pull boss.
Both guilds are lusting on pull still, and it's still bad.
Yeah, lusting on pull on a boss like this is interesting because it's efficient for getting as many pulls in as possible. It's efficient for getting the boss kill time as low as possible. But it's inefficient because it gives you less time in phase 1, but you want probably the lust eventually you're gonna want to use it to get less time in phase 3.
Exactly.
We assume phase 3 is going to be hectic. We assume it's going to be a soft enrage. We assume you're going to want to move your lust there instead. We don't know that for sure. Again, these are just assumptions. We don't know what phase 3
it's
looks
assumptions
like.
based off of purely like what Heroic was like.
Yeah, historical stuff. Like,
Yeah.
if it's somehow different, odds are it's different, worse, not better.
Enrage has also been super fucking hard on a lot of bosses.
Yeah, we haven't seen Enrage yet on Mythic Halondrus, but I don't want to see, oh my goodness. And you can't even really just like pull the boss for 10 minutes and wait because the bombs will just explode and kill you.
We've seen in this raid already, we've seen Enrage on Skullx, Enrage on Lihuvim, soft Enrages on Artificer, like readily hit. And it's like...
Enrage on Pantheon, basically.
Soft Enrage on Prototype Pantheon, basically Enrage on Pantheon.
Yeah.
It's like, I have a strong suspicion, Halondrus is going to be kind of the same way.
I kind of think it's just going to be a soft Enrage type end where it's just like, you know, if 10 orbs are spawning every minute and eventually you've got 50 orbs out there,
Yeah.
what are you going to do?
That makes sense.
You die.
All right. Anyways, we're going to be back tomorrow, back around 24 hours from now. Going to be covering, hopefully somebody's killed Halondrus. Maybe we'll talk about some of the initial pulls on Anduin. Hopefully have some like diagrams and video to show you of Anduin.
Get our nice whiteboard out, show some pictures.
Yep. In the meantime, who are you guys rooting for? We want to hear down in the comment section below. We will see you guys later. Goodbye.
Later.